Well, folks, Palantir stock getting absolutely pummeled. The stock's down over 9% here today. I got a big video coming for you guys tonight, a beast video that covers a lot of subjects in the market, a lot of stocks. I just wanted to quickly cover what's going on with Palantir, why the stock dropped billions of dollars of market capitalization here today. Do I think this is a proper move for the stock? Do I think this was overblown, ridiculous? I'll share all that in the next couple of minutes here, okay? So Palantir obviously got hammered today, down over 9%. I mean, it wasn't like it was that bad of a day in the market, just to be quite honest. I mean, the Russell has actually had a great day. The Russell was up over 1% here today. The Dow was very slightly down, 0.1%. If you look at the S&P 500, it was down 0.5%. I mean, it wasn't like it was some crazy, like, whoa, this is a horrible disaster of a day. It's just this particular stock was a completely disaster. So in regards to Palantir, what happened? Okay, Palantir falls as analysts raises questions over Army contract renewal. Palantir's had a strong run in 2023, as we all know, right? But they're running into more headwinds with a bearish analyst on Palantir stock raising questions over an Army contract renewal. William Blair analyst Louis De Palma, who rates Palantir stock underperformed. So first thing to remember is this analyst is basically already bearish on Palantir stock, right? They have an underperform rating on Palantir stock, basically believing they're going to underperform the market, underperform their sector, all those sorts of things. Okay, published a note Friday speculating. So they must have published this after the market closed on Friday, speculating on future of a 4-year, $458 million Army contract, which is set to expire. Citing a U.S. Army presentation last week, De Palma wrote that there's a strong indication that Palantir's renewal contract in 2 weeks will be significantly less than the original $458 million. He also said the Army might offer a new 2-year renewal of $116 million. So basically, this man's saying that Palantir was getting, let's call it $110 million-ish a year from this particular contract, and now Palantir might only get, let's call it $60 million a year. So about a $50 million difference, roughly, just rough numbers, a year from this contract, right? About $50 million of difference there, right? Revenue reduced by additional vendors sharing the deal. The William Blair analyst speculated that the data ownership could be an issue between the Army and Palantir. Palantir aims to use customer data to train artificial intelligence models. So here's the deal, okay? So Palantir stock fell several billion dollars of market cap today. It was down. We can call it about $4 billion roughly in market capitalization. And this is on speculation that Palantir is going to lose out on an extra $50 million or $60 million of revenue a year from this contract. First thing to keep in mind is this is no guarantee. This is speculation. We don't have concrete contracts. We don't see any of that right now. This is speculation, okay? Second thing to keep in mind, it's $50 or $60 million a year difference. If this is true, everything he's saying, okay? Does the stock deserve to trade down many billions of dollars of market cap? And the answer is no. But Palantir is an extremely volatile stock, so I can understand on any good news or bad news, the stock can move sometimes several billion dollars of market cap. It doesn't really make the most sense, but it is what it is, okay? So as a Palantir shareholder myself, right, am I making any moves based upon this news? And the answer is absolutely not. This is not something that makes me say, oh my gosh, this is the end for us Palantir bulls. Like, we're done, we're screwed. No. The bottom line is Palantir is picking up tons of business from government contracts right now. They're picking up tons of business from commercial contracts, and they could see a nice acceleration in their business model next year as well. We should see Palantir's revenue numbers next year be up probably several $100 billion, or not $100 billion, I wish, several $100 million next year. The big question is, are their revenues going to be up $200 million, $400 million, $600 million? That's really the only debate around Palantir. So that's kind of my 2 cents on this. And once again, this is speculation. We'll see what happens in regards to this contract. And you got to take it from who it's coming from. It's coming from somebody that's already has underperformed on the stock, and the stock's been an absolute beast. So if anything, this analyst kind of needs a stock to go down because they're not looking the best in this situation, right? They're not. I mean, when you have an underperform on a stock that's absolutely beast mode, is up over 100% this year, you kind of don't look like you're making the most intelligent decisions and kind of what you think is going on with stocks. Okay. Appreciate y'all joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for being subscribed. Beast video coming for you guys here later tonight on the market. A lot of interesting things I'm seeing out there. And we'll talk about a lot of stocks in that video. Okay. Appreciate y'all. Much love as always. Let me know your opinion in the comment section and have a great day. Palantir stock is down 14 percentage points just in the past 5 trading days, down another 6% plus here today. The hatred for Palantir, everybody's out with their pitchforks, saying Palantir's donezo. So we're going to speak about this subject in today's video. We're going to talk about, is Palantir about to face a much bigger downward move here, and does it make sense to get out of the stock over the next few months and buy it back and let's call it the first quarter, second quarter of next year, something like that at a much cheaper price. So we'll discuss all that in today's video, okay? But yeah, there's obviously a lot of people. By the way, I appreciate every single person for joining me here today. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for smashing that like button, all that good stuff. Let me address an elephant in the room, okay? We got to talk about an elephant in the room before we get into the fundamentals, before we get into C3 AI and the valuation of Palantir and growth rates and some of this new analyst stuff that's coming out here in the last 24 to 48 hours and all that stuff. Okay, before we get into all that, let me address the elephant in the room. Why is it that Palantir gets so much hatred all over the place? Like, you go to forums, you go to message boards, you go to social media and things like that. When Palantir stock starts doing bad, why does it face so much criticism, so much hatred? So many people seem like they're rooting against the stock, like really rooting against it to go down. Like, they're so happy to see it go down. Well, there's 5 core reasons why this happens, okay? And as somebody that has been in the market 15 years, always been online, right? Online brokerage accounts, and just, used Yahoo Finance religiously back in the day and was check the message boards and conversations. Like, I've seen how all this plays out, okay? There's 5 core reasons before we get into the rest of the stuff, okay? One is jealousy. A stock like Palantir, very popular in the market, right? A lot of retail investors have prospered from this stock over the past, couple years now at this point in time, right? There's a lot of jealousy in regards to Palantir. And most stocks in the market, if they do well, they don't get much jealousy. But if it's a stock that a lot of people have seen, a lot of people make a lot of money in, there's a certain segment of the population that gets very jealous, very jaded, and they actually want to see that stock do bad. Now, I don't understand that way of thinking. If somebody makes money in a stock, great for them. Awesome. Like, I root for them. Like, I don't care if I'm not investing in a stock. Like, good for you. Make money. Like, do you, man. Like, awesome. Like, I like to see people making money in the world. Other people don't like to see that. It makes other people feel inferior. It makes other people feel bad about themselves. It's the way it's been. It's the way it will always be. It's always been this way, folks. It always will be this way. There's always going to be a certain segment of the population that when other people are prospering and doing well, they can't wait for their downfall. And so that's a component. The other one is a burn short. This is, if you've shorted Palantir in the last year and a half, you've been burned on the stock, right? So some of those folks have run down their portfolios significantly. And so, even if they're not actively shorting the stock, buying puts on the stock, they're still rooting for it to go down because they got burned by Palantir's obviously massive run over this past year and a half or so, right? The third thing is new shorts that need the stock down, right? You're always going to have a certain amount of people. Like, people have been consistently trying to bet against this AI wave this entire year, and they've just gotten burnt, but they keep trying to bet against it, right? And so people bet against the stocks like the Palantirs or the Nvidias or whoever else is seen as like the AI type stocks. And so you have those sorts of groups that they really need these stocks down. So they're jumping on the bandwagon there, and to let everybody know these stocks are going down. They're taking the elevator down 16, 15. It's going back to 10. It's going back to 6. All those sorts of things, right? Then you have longs that sold last year. Let's be honest. If you bought Palantir in 2021, you got wrecked last year, right? Your timing was completely off on Palantir. If you were buying Palantir last year like I was, right, in 2022, you made out like a bandit. Like, holy smokers, that's no jokers. But if you bought Palantir, let's say at the end of 2020, 2021, a lot of people sold out of that stock last year, which is why the stock went from $30, $40 stock down to $5 to $6. Like, how did it make that big of a move? People sold and sold and sold. And then you got a bunch of jaded former longs that were long in Palantir, sold out last year as the stock dumped, right? Lost a bunch of money on it, and they really want to see Palantir fail because they lost a bunch of money in it. That kind of goes a little bit back to the jealousy thing, but it's just from a different angle than anything else. And the fifth one is you have a lot of people that don't own nearly as many Palantir shares as they want to own, And they're actually rooting for Palantir to go down. They want Palantir to go down so they can buy more shares. And so they almost sometimes will add fuel to the fire as far as kind of the hate storm around it to kind of trick everybody, to get everybody to, get going crazy and like, oh, I got to dump out of this stock. And, oh, man. And then they come right in behind them and pick up those shares. Remember, every share that's sold in the market has a buyer on the other side. Every share that's sold, right? Somebody sold me personally shares of Meta stock last year at $88.94. I have the screenshots. I own those shares today. $88.94. This is what happens in the market. There's always somebody buying on the other side, right? So just a little food for thought in regards to that, okay? Alrighty, so first off here, let's start with the C3 AI stuff, okay? Which is a new fear unlocked in regards to Palantir and gonna crash Palantir stock, right? Because C3 AI came out after the bell and basically reported revenue that actually missed analyst expectations. And when you're a company like a C3 AI, you really can't report revenues that are missing. Not in this market right now. And so the fact that they missed on revenue was definitely not a good sign, and that's a huge component of why their stock is down big, right? As far as their Q3 total outlook, they're expecting $74 to $78 million in revenue. 2024 outlook in general, 295 to 320, consensus at 307, 308, somewhere around there, right? Company is losing money on a non-GAAP basis, so it is a money-losing company overall, which is very different than a Palantir, which Palantir is a money-making company. So just a little food for thought in regards to that, right? Now, in regards to C3 AI, right, it gets grouped in with Palantir, but it honestly probably shouldn't be. And, I've tried to see like reviews over time from some of these folks in regards to maybe people that have worked at Palantir or have viewpoints on this and things like that, right, in terms of C3 AI specific. And it's interesting, like I see this review. This is back from actually the end of 2021. This person says, feels like a scam to sell a product that's worse than free products out there. On the flip side, you have this guy from, Halloween Day. He's supposedly a senior director of solutions and business development that says it's an awesome company to work for. He gives it 5 stars. Then you got this person from last month, November, gave it a 2-star, and supposedly they say the technology is great, but it's miserable company culture. So, and everybody's always stressed at the company and things like that. So you don't know what to believe, but the C3 AI does have a funny background, right? Right here, this says 2009, founded as C3 Energy. Then in 2016, they rebranded to C3 IoT, Internet of Things, because that was a hot thing at that moment, back in the Fitbit, GoPro days, and Apple Watch, and all of that stuff, right? IoT, Internet of Things. Then in 2019, they rebranded to C3 AI, right? And so it is kind of seen as some red flags for the company overall when you kind of like, you're switching like, okay, we're not this thing, we're now this thing, we're now this thing. And so to put C3 AI into the same category as Palantir is probably, I would say, disrespectful is the best way I could put it. Disrespectful to Palantir and what that company's built over the years and the technology they actually have and the stuff they've been working on for, a decade plus now at this point in time. The government relationships they have. And so, yeah, that's where I'll leave it in regards to C3 AI. I do not think it's a very fair comp. I understand because C3 has AI in their term, they're going to get grouped in with Palantir, but I just don't think when you look at the history of that company, what they have going on, I don't necessarily think it's I think it's, like I said, I think the best way I could describe it is pretty disrespectful to put Palantir into their same category, but they're put in that category, right? And so, would I be surprised if Palantir stock is down tomorrow on the back of the C3 AI earnings? I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it is what it is. I wouldn't be surprised because that's the way, they do it sometimes on Wall Street, right? Now, next up here, listen, Palantir stock has had several big pullbacks this year. If we just look at this year, which has been a tremendous year, remember, Palantir stock is up 167% year to date. Now, despite that, this year, the stock's had many big pullbacks. mini crashes, right? Right here, this was an interesting time, right? So Palantir starts the year on fire, and then starting around February starts to really weaken, and actually stays weak over pretty much almost the entire springtime, and goes right back to the 7s. So you could have easily said, oh, Palantir's back in the 7s, it's going back to the 6s, where it belongs, back in the 6s. You could have easily said that at that point in time, right? Then Palantir goes on another beast run, right? And then it pulls back over the next several months, and it drops, let's call it 20%-ish from kind of this peak to this trough here. And that was another moment you said, oh, okay, that's all the excitement out of Palantir now at this point in time. This overhyped stock is done. It's done. It's going back down all the way to Chinatown, right? And then Palantir goes on another run, and then you could have said, okay, after it went down again, okay, that was the last run for the stock. And then it goes on another big run, reaches what, $21 a share or so, right? And then we've had this most recent pullback, which you could say the same exact thing you've said for all these other pullbacks here is, oh, that's it. It's donezo. It's going down, to this price, that price, they've faded. This is it. And so just keep in mind, this is just one of actually 4 major falls for the stock this year. And even with those 4 major falls, it's still stock up 167 percentage points this year, okay? That's a little food for thought. I think that's very important, okay? Next up here, Palantir is actually down on a 3-year basis. The stock is down on a 3-year basis. Now, when you think about Palantir's business model 3 years ago versus today, okay, what do we know about Palantir 3 years ago versus today? Their revenues were much lower than what they are today. They were losing fortunes of money 3 years ago versus now they're starting to make really nice profits, and those profits are expanding rapidly right now, okay? So 3 years ago, much lower revenues, a disaster bottom line, and share-based compensation to the moon 3 years ago, which is no longer the situation now at this point in time. If anything, actually the company's looking to take shares off the market with their buyback. So those are 3 of the most important things you could ever look for in the company. And you want to know the 4th one? Well, 3 years ago, all the corporations out there were not looking for AI solutions. Today, every single major company out there is looking for AI solutions. And one of the few true AI players in the SaaS space, software space, whatever you want to call it, is guess what? Palantir. And so I think these are extremely, extremely important things to consider when you're looking at the stock and you're saying this is a stock that's down quite significantly versus where the stock actually was 3 flipping flapjacking years ago, okay? That's extraordinary. Next up here, and this is out of Barron's here. Palantir stock just keeps dropping. It just failed a key test. Palantir stock was headed for more losses on Wednesday after breaching a closely watched technical price level that could accelerate declines, right? This is something some folks look at, especially in the trader community, about these technicals, and they make trading decisions based upon what is actually going on here. And if Palantir is at this certain technical level, they sell the stock. If it's at a certain technical level, they buy the stock. And they make these sorts of decisions. My opinion of this is, it's a little foolish, but you got to understand, like, certain people do this. And so if Palantir fails a key level, you're going to have a certain amount of people that won't buy it or they're going to sell the stock in the short term. But the thing you got to remember about all these technical things, they're short-term things. And everybody talks about them for a few days, maybe a week, and then it goes on. And then it's on to the next thing. And these things never drive a stock over the long term. They can drive a stock over a few days, but they never drive a stock over the long term. That is a little food for thought there, right? Then you have this out here. Just negativity on negativity everywhere in regards to Palantir, right? Palantir stock falls on analyst caution. Shares of Palantir fell sharply after analysts at William Blair raised concerns about the potential Army renewing a contract with the tech company, right? An industry event at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, U.S. Army officials set out plans to revamp the Army data platform, what used to be known as the Vantage dashboard. Taking notes, William Blair analyst Louis De Palma says the comment suggests brewing friction with Palantir, supposedly, okay? And so supposedly, once again, none of this is confirmed, this is just, supposed things, is Palantir could make less from this next Army contract, this particular Army contract here, right? That's what the talk is. And there's brewing friction, he says, which, once again, this is just one man saying brewing friction, who's already a bearish analyst on the stock with an underperform rating. So this is a little food for thought here. When you hear from somebody, I could go out there and say I went to the thing and, I thought it was a brewing great relationship, and it's just like, well, who's really to be trusted here? Who can you believe? And so I wanted to look up this Louis De Palma and see, is he a good analyst? Is he ranked high? Is he a bad analyst? And here's what I found in regards to this Louis De Palma when I had this note, okay? So based upon tips rank, they have him as about a 3-star analyst, roughly. They say he's a 3,068th best analyst out of 8,600, right? So based upon his success rate and his average return, it looks like he's kind of an average guy in terms of the analyst community. He's certainly not the worst. He's certainly not the best. He's kind of seems like an average analyst out there. So, when an analyst comes out here and says this, says that, I mean, take it for what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. Keep in mind that's one contract, and if you read more of the details, it sounds like they could miss out potentially $50 to $60 million. Well, Palantir is going to do several billion dollars of revenue. So it's like even if that contract isn't quite there, they have so much growth in so many other places in the government sector and in the commercial sector that can obviously make up for that, okay? So that's a little food for thought in regards to that negativity there, right? Then you have this out here, which is another kind of negative storm out there. Palantir CEO Alex Karp trashes corporate America for silence on Israel after what happened on October, right? Software AI, our defense in the modern world, says Dr. Alex Karp. And so this is, you can agree with him, you can disagree with him, but there's certain folks that might find his words offensive. Like, if he's going to trash corporate America, people will say, why are you trashing us? This is ridiculous, okay? I don't know. It's one of those things, right? And some people feel certain ways about that, and, they don't want certain things to be said. I don't know. It is what it is, right? But it is a factor that has to be considered out there, right?